Hey everyone, and welcome back to Fruits of the Spirit, where we talk about important biblical topics that are important to our lives. Today, we're going to be looking into the question, is witchcraft wrong? And witchcraft is when you consult and use power from spirits, but not just any spirits, but ones that are not serving God, so like devils, demons for example. It's sorcery, essentially. And the question for today is it wrong? And the answer is yes. But why is it wrong? Well, the short answer is that God said it is. In Leviticus chapter 19 verse 31, God said, "Regard not them that have familiar spirits, neither seek after wizards to be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God." He set his stance on witchcraft in multiple other verses as well, like Leviticus chapter 20 verse 27 and Deuteronomy chapter 18 verse 10. And that statement alone is enough reason to not take part in witchcraft, because God said no. But we all want to know why God said no, of course. So let's take it a bit further than God said so. A big reason why God does not approve of the practice is that he has set boundaries on who humans can communicate with and the powers they can hold. When people disregard those boundaries for whatever reason, it can be quite disrespectful. And we know that God is very strict with different types of things being mixed with each other, because even during Israelite times, God didn't even want two types of fabric to mix together, like in Deuteronomy chapter 22 verse 11, not to talk of spirits and human beings mixing together. And think of the angels who came to the earth and married humans against God's will, according to Jude verses 6 and 7, and Genesis chapter 6 verses 1 to 4, and then created a bunch of superhumans who had extra intelligence, 6 fingers on each hand, 6 toes on each foot, and were giants. This was not what God intended when making mankind, and it only came out of disobedience. And that's the biggest reason why witchcraft is so bad, isn't it? Witchcraft is a tool people use to get around God when they want something that he has not given. And a good example of that is a king in the Bible who did the exact same thing and went to an actual witch in 1 Samuel chapter 28. And we all know who that is. King Saul. Saul was faced with a large army and wanted to ask God about it, but God gave no answer because Saul had sinned against him. Saul's next move was, of course, to go to the witch at Endor to get what he wanted. The witch then summoned demons that cosplayed as the prophet Samuel in verses 13 and 19, who told Saul what was going to happen. As we can see here, God was clearly trying to punish Saul, something he did with David later for a different reason, and David accepted the punishment and brought himself closer to God. Saul, on the other hand, further sinned by going around God to get the information he wanted. It's no surprise that he died in that same battle he asked the witch about. And what Saul did, people do all the time in a smaller form, by going around their superiors for whatever goal they have. Rather that's by becoming a thief, doing fraud, disobeying a parent, disobeying a husband, disobeying the law, or any other form like this. And what many of these people don't really realize at first is that when we do this, sure, we might get that one thing we're looking for, but we've also just walked off into the deep end. There goes any protection from God, because, well, we're sinning against him, and then there'd also go eternal life, and when we eventually get in trouble, God won't be very moved to do much in our favor. Like he said in Proverbs chapter 1 verses 24 and 26, "Because I have called, and ye refused. I have stretched out my hand, and no man regarded. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh." So now that we have that we'll get absolutely no protection from God, instead of wandering into these murky waters, the Bible teaches us to be content with what God has given us, like what was said in Hebrews chapter 13 verse 5, which says, "Let your conversation be without covetousness, and be content with such things as ye have. For he hath said, I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee." David Daniel, and such like, never had to resort to witchcraft. And if we serve God properly, like they did, neither will we. But that is the end of this video. We're talking about witchcraft and why it's wrong. If you like this kind of content, you found it educational, and you want to support my channel, then you can always subscribe, hit that like button, and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified of when I pop up with the next video. Have a great day, and I'd love to see you soon.